Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on the dishonesty and the sort of greed for attention that is involved in psychopathic gaslighting. I'm kind of on course with the topic that we have been discussing in the past several days. Is one of the traits and red flags of a malignant narcissist or a psychopath individual is that of gaslighting and brainwashing, specifically to sort of get in through your conscious filter, hit you in your subconscious mind where you're not aware of being manipulated. You're sort of going along with the program. You think that this is cooperation, the right thing to do, the good thing to do, to sort of concede to their requests, meaning that when we're talking about a psychopath, someone without a conscience, based on how their neurochemistry is, the structures in their actual brain do show either reduced size, inactivity, so sort of a loss of functionality, which creates this type of individual. And a lot of people aren't aware that this experience can occur in the human population. They really are, because of this, they are like an intraspecies predator, which means they sort of prey on other people's emotions. They prey on other people's normal human needs to belong, to feel loved, to feel important, to feel special, to feel listened to. And they're able to sort of, they have a really sort of idiosyncrasy about them, in that because they're devoid of emotion, they don't really get abstracts like love, loyalty, humanity, sort of brotherhood. They don't experience this within themselves. It's contrary to what you see on the outside. So it's a very complex situation to grasp, fathom, understand, digest, and keep it in a functional working order so you can sort of move through this experience in a whole manner. But when we're talking about the gaslighting and brainwashing from these individuals, I just want to quickly touch on a little bit of the difference in these individuals that make them sort of antisocial, meaning against society. These people can be very intelligent. They can be leaders of corporations, leaders of social media platforms. They can be doctors, lawyers. It does not mean that they're not intelligent, highly functioning members of society. There's another component within a psychopathic individual, which, namely, they don't experience the emotion, namely that of fear. So they are sort of fearless people. If you can understand that these individuals, because they don't really experience fear, they don't also then experience loss or the feeling of sort of sadness or melancholy when you lose somebody and you feel that your life is changed. You can't, you're heartbroken. They don't experience this. They might present or mimic as if they're experiencing this, oftentimes, when they realize that they have to put on a facade, a mask, otherwise other people are kind of onto them. You have to realize that sometimes they will then present a mimicry, which means they observe and then play back, but oftentimes better than the original, which is designed to sort of get into your subconscious where they can get hold and take control of the operating system, i.e. your subconscious, which is really a deep and powerful aspect of your being, your emotions, your feeling, and thus your behavior and how you lead and conduct your life and what you follow and connect with within. So the attachment within, which by a psychopath with their gaslighting, meaning that they're going to use different methods, images, ways of communicating designed to, as a viewer so aptly stated, lead you by the nose, which another viewer so aptly commented that this harkens back to the idiom of sort of when you would put a sort of ring through the nose of an animal that you wanted to lead, like an oxen, a cow, a pig. This is how you got control. You're on them like a puppet. I mean, so you can then direct and control them. So it's very much leading you, you're under their nose. It's like they want you, this is what they are doing. They want you, even though they don't have the right, you have your own personal freedom. You have your own right to free will, decision making, your own values. This is super important. The degree to which they seep into the subconscious and sort of take hold of your reins. We're going to get into that a little bit more in depth here. So this might be new to people, this might be advanced, but we're going to kind of go in depth because I think that's a great viewer question. And to understand how it requires, another viewer relayed a story specifically on that level of psychopathy, which he experienced in his workplace, which just follows their pattern to a T. I mean, the story plays out, like a Hollywood film. A copyright playwright couldn't write it any better. I mean, this is just what they do. This is the many shades that you get into with these people, and you just can't fathom that you've stumbled upon this. Just as if you had stumbled upon, a 10-pound gold nugget, and that can be life-changing for the positive. It's like you've stumbled upon a 10-pound just toxic, very disordered energy that you don't all of a sudden know how you've become complicit to or taken over by. It's that life-changing. And so that's why it's a serious topic, but I want you to understand the moving parts so you understand what brainwashing is and how to get out of being brainwashed and gaslighted, which is a very horrific state to find yourself in after you've encountered one of these types of people. Either in the workplace, your family, your siblings, your parents, your children, your work advocate, your boss, your manager, your spouse, your fiance. It happens. But eventually the mask drops and the true energy begins to show. And it's in the story that's relayed here, the narrative by this viewer, it's just unequivocal. And so it's important that you understand the brainwashing, first of all, that it's designed to surpass your conscious mind. Designed for you to not notice and go, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't listen to that. I shouldn't defile my values for that. I shouldn't cross that boundary. I shouldn't cross that line. I shouldn't go there. What they want is sort of people just to sort of follow them along with what becomes sort of, blind in plain sight, basically, to what they're doing, blind in plain sight. So that's when they know that they've got you. So the way of gaslighting and brainwashing is to sort of get into your own operating system and take control. And they sort of give you these subconscious, oftentimes nonverbal commands through their body language, through their suggestiveness. There's a neurolinguistic programming that leads to a lot of persuasiveness, and using this dishonesty for the greed of sort of taking power away from another. It's very much sort of an usurping of power over like people's free will, their connection to their own innocence, their own gut, their own sense of right or wrong. It causes an override of this. If you could think of like a computer glitch, that all of a sudden you're sending codes in a new direction. That is what the psychopathic communication does. It bypasses and it crosses over into the subconscious based on how they understand through their own observing of humanity, of good people. So they've like scraped all of this data off of observing people and use it to mimic and then use back to defile and make you weak and sever a connection with yourself and sort of your sense of reality on all levels, all of your senses. So and it puts you in a whole nother sort of place where you're doubting what you're doing, but it feels like your life is in flow, but there's a sort of a severing or a snapping or a dissolving of connection to your own organic connection to gut, your own values, how you perceive and process things. So in the course of the relationship, just as we're saying, it feels very life-changing, that this is the answer to your prayers, that this is, an angel coming in and you just jump up on their wings and they're going to take you to Never Never Land. There's this feeling of you've met your match. This person is got all the energy, charisma. Your life is all of a sudden euphoria. You never thought that this would happen. You might be married. You might have a great level at your job. You might be, self-autonomous, but you'll find that they get in and sort of unravel all of this that you have built within, that sort of structure within, especially of your own values, your own innocence, and your own trust of self. So the energetic field that you inhabit, where you make peace, where you have a sense of yourself, your I am, your valuation of self, your values, i.e., I value family, I value community, I value nature. All of a sudden this can be removed from your gut and removed from view. And it feels like either that you're growing, but you're really being dissolved from the inside out, like a termite is eating a log. If you've ever seen that in the forest, it's sort of energetically eating out your emotions, taking them and removing them from your core, if you will, your sense of self, literally just sort of replacing it with their version of how they want you to behave. And this can go very deep to the point where people don't know why they're looking in a certain direction, or they're hearing certain things, or they're paying attention to things that they never paid attention to. These are all indicative of being brainwashed, being thread along the psychopathic language, the psychopathic talk, the word salad, the sort of way that they communicate, make jokes, make communication, lead into hyper arousal, meaning they're going to constantly sort of arouse that curiosity, that need for stimulation, that then it, will, sometimes it can be either intellectual hyperstimulation, emotional hyperstimulation, most namely sexual hyperstimulation, where they sort of sexualize everything and anything, and it all becomes sort of this chronic turn on, which the body is not supposed to operate at that level. Likewise, in hyperarousal, the body is not supposed to be in, the hyper stressed out state where it's either hyper excited, in a real desire state, like you're trying to play a slot machine and you just keep going and there's this intermittent reinforcement and you're just playing it harder and harder and really to get less and less, but this is energetically, and it's like you're trying to get through a maze and you're just huffing and puffing and you're just sort of needing to resolve this hyper arousal and get to the other side where the psychopath is basically got this promise of this life forever after. It's how they get you hook, line, and sinker. It's the way that they communicate, which people don't realize that either it's being set up for them or that they're being led along these lines that become indelibly carved in. Strange ways of perceiving things that people think is new, or that they are enticed by this sort of special communication with this individual. It can be sort of private, this is our, and then sweet nothings are whispered and it's like you and me against the world, we've got this superpower together. There's all these sort of fascinating just sort of epiphanies and climaxes in the relationship, which is based on the gaslighting, which is the psychopath just basically having a good old time, business as usual, misleading through dishonesty and greed for your energy, greed for your life energy, greed for whatever it is that they can get off of you, whether it is attention, money, whether it's just the thrill of the hunt for them. Remember, we're dealing with an intra-species predator. We're dealing with somebody who basically is looking for others to prey upon, and who is looking for others to not be combative with, because that would be too obvious. Because then if it was based in your conscious mind, you would be able to fight back. You'd be able to call the shots. You'd be able to call a timeout. you'd be able to say, what, you're doing this with who? And you'd be able to have, a proper checks and balances. This is not how communication goes with the psychopath. It is all under their control. Very much, like if you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz, and you've got, that scene with Dorothy where she's shaking in front of the curtain, and then the wizard is there, 4 stories tall, and he's commands, and there's thunder, and there's this steam, coming up behind him, and then she finds out that there's the guy, behind the curtain. That's kind of what the psychopath is doing. They've got just sort of this operating system that they're deliberately misleading you along. And it's very confusing because they are the best actors. They can mislead people for months, years. I mean, most people would not have the physical, emotional, or mental capacity to do this. But because the psychopath is devoid of sort of fear, the world to them is just theirs for the taking, including people, including their energy, including their jobs, including their families, including their finances, including their homes, including their happiness, including their sanity. I mean, this is what they take, this is what they pillage for. Whoever thought that there would be a person who would pillage in this way and be a con person of this way? This is brainwashing and gaslighting. You thought that maybe this was only reserved for, you'd encounter this, only in the movies or concentration camps or something of the like, but there are individuals who have that capacity in everyday life. So you must understand in the cause that creates the effect, and that this can happen and in commonplace settings, and that there's no apparent outward indicator of such, and it causes you ultimately to doubt your sense of right or wrong, and doubt your own self, doubt your own feelings, which becomes, it's sort of a self annihilating then system. So if we're equating, which is very similar to the way that a computer processes information, and then the human anatomy, and your sense of self. So in other words, it then sets up a new program. This communication, it sets up a program within you, the psychopathic communication, to doubt and distrust yourself. So it literally like programs you based on their look, the reptilian gaze. We've done videos about this. Go and research it. Where, people get glued onto their eyes. They follow them blindly. They're they're just sort of feel this sort of just stunning level of attraction. Just like they're on overdrive. They're on cloud 74. They're just, whoa, they're on a mix of their own dopamine and other neurochemicals, which are giving them this high, and they feel it's attached to this person, when in essence the person has led them under the nose and is guiding them, not like a free being, but a resource under their control, for their power, for their gain, for their use. And you don't understand it. That's what's so insidious, or you don't see it coming. You don't understand while it's taking place. And ultimately, to doubt your sense of reality. I can do this. I can't do this. I'm competent. I'm not competent. This is right. This is not right. That sort of valuation system where people will forego things that they've worked for their entire life, their family, their business, who they are, what they stand for, what they represent, who they've been, who they are at the I am level. All of that can be just sort of disconnected and programmed to be detached from within, which is not good, obviously. And I just want to, I know we're getting long in the video, I just want to, maybe I'll leave it for the next video. I'm going to relay a great viewer narrative that was left under the female psychopath and their violation of your boundaries video that I'm going to relay, because I think a lot of people who have encountered this, and he kind of gives a warning to men after that, check this out, guys. This is what happens. And this viewer is, I'm super impressed, very strong. I mean, it's a big wow that he can back off of this. And you can too. I mean, that's why I want to share the story, is because you can back off of this feeling of being brainwashed and gaslighted and feeling that you are powerless, or that you're questioning yourself of why you're doing, feeling, or becoming something. You know, people all of a sudden will start changing to suit the needs of the psychopath, like in the workplace, changing their outfits, changing what they look like, the color of their hair, the style of their clothes. All of a sudden, you find yourself taking up foods that you would never eat, or wearing clothes you'd never wear, or staying out at times you would never stay out at, or lying to people you would never lie to. And it all of a sudden, they kind of get in and numb out and disconnect you from yourself, which sounds like a big statement. And generally, it's you need to back off of that experience to understand the fact that gaslighting causes you to sort of surrender to a sense of loss of self. It's what I would just say, really, before we wrap it up. It's like almost to admit to an ego death, or surrendering yourself, just, and not to the good, not to the higher order, but to a powerlessness. It's like they want you to admit that you are powerless over them, or that you are powerless to them. It's like they almost want you to admit that, and then they have some sort of sick joy that they are the way that they are. I don't know. I don't want to leave it judgmental, but I mean, I think that's the problem. And it becomes a real addiction and dependency, where people really need their sort of communication like a drug, to a mind altered state, to get back to that level of arousal. The human brain, when it is addicted, is because there's neurochemical pathways and highways that are etched out in those high level of arousal, which it wants to get back to. It wants to, it becomes an addiction, which means it's on an automatic process, which oftentimes people, if they're not strong enough, or they haven't felt the pain enough of that there's something going on here, and I don't want to be that, i.e. they don't have an image, like, I don't want to be that person on Jerry Springer throwing chairs and throwing dishes and screaming, like, I don't want to be that, so I'm going to back off this relationship. Until you get that sort of leverage over self, or the pain is great enough, will people be able to really be able to sort of deal with their gaslighting or the brainwashing issue and those intrusive thoughts, and that feeling of sort of dissociation and feeling desensitized to yourself. So that's why in the book that I'm working on, I talk about how important it is to resensitize yourself and reconnect to yourself. And this, you can heal, you can become whole, you can have quote unquote life is normal, and even better than the real deal that you were wanting back with, when the psychopath sort of threw you off course like a detour. It can get better with time, but you have to understand that it's on the subconscious level where they have gotten in. So that is where we have to heal. And you need to understand that deep level is a level of commitment, and it's a level of faith in allowing light to be in the deepest reservoirs of you, versus being sort of manhandled or woman handled by this sort of psychopath. And that's not meant to be funny. It is very serious, and it can be ruinous to people. And so you do want to return from that state, and return and resensitize yourself. You don't have to surrender all to this person. You can back it up and hold your own space and not be powerless over them. In fact, once you have it within, you are now back at the operating, you're the one who's at the operator's desk. You're now the one who's working the levers and controls. You're the one now with the vision, which then with work can become impenetrable to such abusers. So the abuse and that sort of insidious mind games doesn't continue. There was another great viewer comment. It's like, welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. That was it. The Guns N' Roses song. Awesome song. Love that song. And then a viewer sharply stated, no thanks. So, it's really like it's just saying no thank you to the quote unquote fun and games. It's okay. No, thank you. I am not going to buy into that. I'm not going to buy the deception. I'm not going to buy the dishonesty. I'm not going to buy, and I'm not going to give that my life energy to that, which is to weaken me. That is not necessary. So that was an awesome comment. So thank you guys for your great discussion. And we're going to be taking up this topic in future videos here shortly. So thank you for your viewership. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, here today. And of course, I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.